Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Ray Schaub. He is the founder of La Consa Mental Fitness, offers a 4-month intensive program, fitness for business leaders in recovery. He has been an entrepreneur and self-employed for most of his life and has been training and practicing meditation and other mindfulness techniques as part of his own recovery for more than 20 years. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Thank you, AJ. So happy to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about mental fitness secrets for business leaders. And obviously, when people can learn from it, a lot of people will benefit from this. So before we come to this, I want to understand a bit about you, about your journey. How did you get into this particular line? So that people understand why should they listen to you. I don't know if you are a doctor, but if you are not, then obviously the question is why should they listen about mental fitness from you? So in a nutshell, they'll get an answer through your journey, through your recovery period.
Well, I'll start off by saying, no, I'm not a doctor. And so please, anyone listening, take everything in that grain. I'll get more into that later. So my name is Ray Schaub, as AJ said, and I am the founder of a firm called Consa Mental Fitness. And my journey started many, many years ago. So my first introduction to certain mindfulness techniques happened decades ago when I was in college. I was a theater student, and many of the principles that I learned later were also used in teaching actors how to be present in their bodies on stage. So then rolling forward in life and to my early 40s and living in New York City, I owned a computer consulting firm for about 12, 13 years and facing certain challenges. And at one point, I just realized that I wasn't handling those challenges very well. The very first thing I did was I went into therapy. And this was something new, not only new to me, but it was new to people in my family and the like. I wasn't from a group or a family that espoused such things. But about a year into my therapy, I also realized that I had a drinking problem and that I was an alcoholic. And so the denial mechanism around that just crumbled. And I went into recovery and had my last drink around May 8th, 2001. So it's a very significant date in my life. As part of that recovery, one of the things that was encouraged deeply was meditation. And for many people who are experienced in recovery, you know that calming the heart, calming the mind is a very, very big component of learning not to drink anymore. So I went deep into that. And a few years after I started my recovery, I took lessons in meditation and in mindfulness. And the teacher I studied with for a while then handed me up to their teacher, which was I was quite flattered by. And I've been studying with that teacher for about 16 years now. And both of those teachers came to me at a certain point and said, it is now time for you to start teaching. I first was looking for various venues I could teach in and ways that I could teach. And one of those was mindfulness-based stress reduction, developed by John Kabat-Zinn in the 70s. So I became certified in that. And then through the zigs and zags of life, I stumbled across something called positive intelligence, which I've been working with. It was developed by Shirzad Chamine. It's a science-based, evidence-based program to help people become much more mindful and aware and present in this moment. A very, very powerful tool, particularly for those in recovery. And then while searching, I was encouraged through positive intelligence to refine and build a niche audience that I would present myself to. And at first, I was coming up with what seemed like good business ideas and good marketing ideas. And then, after some self reflection, I said, well, key components of my life are mindfulness and mental fitness, recovery, and entrepreneurship. And when I put those together into a Venn diagram, I came up with mental fitness for business leaders in recovery. And from that, just the name of that, I developed a 4-month program that includes all the different types of paradigms that I've worked with that have helped me. This is personal experience, my own empirical investigation that have helped me. And so mental fitness refers to, I developed a 4-month program, and it starts with an 8-week cycle of positive intelligence, and then it rolls into mindfulness techniques, various techniques of meditation, mindful movement, mindful eating, things like that. And then whatever the group is ready for, we spend the last month focused on various other topics. And they might be spiritual topics like forgiveness or acceptance or gratitude. And then, of course, I'm available to the students afterwards for ongoing coaching. So that's the course in a nutshell. To describe it a little more in detail, mental fitness borrows from the paradigm of physical fitness. So when a personal trainer takes you to a gym and you work out with a personal trainer in a gym, they will likely give you light weights to do a few reps to get started building muscle mass consistently over time. Well, in a very similar mode, we use light exercises, brief exercises to help you start to quiet and focus the mind consistently over time. And the positive intelligence program is actually supported by an app that will trigger every few hours during the day to remind you to get present for no more than like 2 minutes, just to sit and be present. And it'll have a little talk it will give and exercises that you can do. Now, I cannot overemphasize the power of taking these micro breaks throughout your day, because one of the things that led me down this path was a job I had early in recovery. And I had owned a company, as I said, for about 13, 14 years. And I got sober just a few months before 9/11 happened here in New York City. And I had 5 clients in the World Trade Center. I knew 6 people who died that day. And I still choke up a little bit when I talk about this. So I simply, and being newly in recovery and only having been sober for a few months, I really wasn't compos mentis to handle the stress of trying to salvage the company through a time like that. And so I closed the company down and I went to work as a middle manager in a firm outside of New York City in New Jersey in a crazy making environment. It was very, very stressful and didn't need to be. It was just a lot of very anxious people who would be on top of me all day with requests and demands on my time. And almost in protest, I decided to set my phone to ring at the top of every hour. I had a little Nokia pocket phone. You might remember those. And it would go ding at the top of every hour. And I would pause and just take 1 solid minute of silence, just breathing, with no meditation intention, with no instruction in it. It was just to just quiet my mind and just let the chaos settle and just breathe. And then I would often do it for up to 3 minutes. It felt so good. But what would happen is the balance of the hour would be so productive. almost out of protest, as I said, I started moving in slow motion when I would come out of this moment. And I would just reach and take one item out of my inbox and put it on my desk and read it thoroughly and then address it as it was asking to be addressed, one little step at a time. And the miracle that happened is this overwhelming inbox got emptied and my desk got clean. I had the cleanest desk in the department. And when I left at 5 o'clock, there was nothing on my mind. I was done. I could go home. I could work on my own recovery. And at the end of the year of doing this as a steady practice, I made 120% of my bonus on an MBO program. So this is the power that this can have in your life. And in my coursework, so I've described mental fitness. What I mean by business leaders is anyone from any level, from a solopreneur working remotely out of their house to a Fortune 100 CEO, um, uh, is eligible for this course. All of them, everyone working in business at that level is dealing with predominantly the same things. They're dealing with the stressors of revenue, of finance, of marketing, of employment, of customer satisfaction, all of it. And often you're the only person dealing with any of it. So the solopreneur even has more pressures oftentimes than the CEO does. And for recovery, I'm referring to recovery from anything from alcohol or drugs or addiction of any kind to any type of chemical drug or behavioral aspect, any type of behavior. But what I seek are people who are in active recovery, who are at least 6 months abstinent from their drug or behavior of choice. This is not a program to achieve recovery. This is someone who has already started on their journey of recovery and wants to augment it with real nuts and bolts exercises in how to master their mind.
Right, Ray. Thank you for sharing all those, the story of your journey. And I'm sure the journey itself is a message for a lot of people, a lot of learning for them. So I want to understand from you, why have you focused more on business leaders in recovery? Help us understand that bit of it.
Okay. Well, it's a lived experience for me. It's something I can speak to from both my heart and from my background. So I know what it's like to pilot a company through a stressful period. I know the things that people are dealing with, possibly with investors or dealing with, customer or bringing in new lines of business. One of the things that happened during one of my sessions, I've taken about 10 or 12 people through this with great success. And during one of the sessions, two of the topic that came up that both of these men, who were also both in recovery, got into was collecting money and the emotions around that. And both of them were faced trying to collect money, two different levels. One was trying to collect a few thousand from a customer, and another was trying to collect several million from somebody who defaulted on a contract. And but both of them had the same stressors, the same emotions, the same angers, waking up in the middle of the night. So business leaders deal with things, their jobs, in a different level than a standard employee would. Specifically, they can't shut it off at 5 o'clock. They have it going like a hamster on a wheel all day, every day. Many people have jobs like that, and they also, in my view, qualify for this program. So if you're in one of those jobs, consider taking a course like this to help you quiet that, get that hamster off the wheel. So that's the business leaders aspect. And then the recovery aspect is, again, it's a lived experience for me. And what I know from my recovery community is most people, in my view, who have gotten to a level where they've had to admit they have a problem with a drug or alcohol or behavior, they have trauma in their background. One of the key triggers for these types of behaviors is having been traumatized. And many of them suffer from PTSD, often not knowing it. That level of trauma, coupled with the stresses that they've already built into their lives through their work environments, layers on top of each other and presents one more challenge to becoming present in this moment. And since I can speak to both of those groups equally, I can help the person who is in that paradigm calm their mind specifically.
Right, right, Ray. So, what is positive intelligence that you talk about in these times when everyone is so focused on, artificial intelligence? You talk about positive intelligence. Help us how to attain that, and what is it all about?
Well, it was, there's a book, New York Times bestseller called Positive Intelligence, written by Shirzad Shamin. He's a man who struggled with his own issues and went off and did a ton of research. And what he discovered he didn't really discover anything new. But what he did very cleverly is he packaged it in a new way to be taught. And so he's teaching ancient wisdom in a new and modern way, if you will. Like I said, it's based on an app. One of the things that he determined was that all minds react negatively. And what a positive intelligence program does is help anyone's mind move from a negative reaction to a positive response. And that's by wedging in a moment in between that reaction and your response. And all minds do this. Even the Dalai Lama has negative thoughts that come up. And while he is much more aware and he has tools for addressing those, many people don't. And what he determined through a factorization is that there are about 9 to 10 different ways that the mind responds negatively. And different people have different profiles in how they react negatively. And he came up with all kinds of terminology, invented and whatnot. You can use any language you want, but he calls them saboteurs, these negative reactive thoughts. And people tend to respond or react from a particular saboteur perspective. So some of the names for these saboteurs are things like the victim, hyperachiever, pleaser, and these might resonate with people in the audience. They might see themselves in those contexts. However, I'd like to point out these aren't personality types. These aren't labels. This isn't when you get your profile. When you do your profile, it only takes about 3 minutes to find out what your saboteurs are. This isn't who you are. This is how your mind reacts to stimuli. And in some cases, many people react, particularly people in recovery, react quite severely. They have a real entrenched victim mode. They have a real entrenched pleaser mode. And this affects their daily activities, particularly their work lives and their relationships. So positive intelligence is a real nuts and bolts way, as I said, of going throughout your day and recognizing first what the reactivity is, and then building strategies to put a wedge in there so that you can respond. And this all happens within a few seconds. You're not sitting cross-legged in the lotus position all day. You're learning how to do this so that you can go, I'm feeling triggered by what that person just said. Let me take just a minute, take a breath, and then I can respond from what we call the sage perspective, the wise perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, indeed. Ray, I was just thinking about that very thing. Only from a sage perspective and wise perspective, I I wish a lot of people are able to do that. I hope that they are able to do that, so that the responses can change a lot of things that we do at the spur of the moment. So what do your clients generally come to you for? What are the questions they ask to you, Ray?
Well, generally, the people who've come to me have recognized that they're having some trouble coping in some way. And that's one of the magic things about why working with people in recovery, they've already come to understand that there's something within them they have to change. And they're already receptive to finding that change within. And so often this is an expansion of that. They're looking for one more tool in their toolbox. But they're coming to me because of they know they're getting anxious, overly anxious about minor things. They're having overreactions to things. An example is, you've got that email that comes in from your inbox from that triggering person, and all you're seeing is their name and their subject line and in there, and your heart is beating out of your chest, and then you start spinning a story out. It's this guy again. If I have to deal with this one more time, I'm gonna fire somebody. I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna do this. And then they open it up, and it's good news. They sent a check. And they don't realize that they didn't have to have that reaction until they actually read the email. And so, and then in some cases, these things stack on top of each other throughout the day, to where they're very reactive with clients and employees and investors, people that they need to run their business. And then this pours over into their lives. They're bringing this all home to the dinner table with their partners, and to their families, and they're just not present, to be there for their families. And they know this, they're recognizing this. And they also, all of this might be in conjunction with, they're working 12-step programs, or they're working an outpatient program, or they're in therapy, or in psychiatry. I believe in all of those things. And I never second guess the work that they're doing in those other modalities. But this work tends to have an echo chamber effect. That's the words of one of my students. He said, this is making my therapy go better. This is helping my psychiatry go better. This is helping my 12-step work go better. I'm much more conscious and present for all of that. So it has a way of augmenting all of those other modalities that they're in.
One, right. You were saying something, or is completely?
No, I'm
wonderful,
done.
wonderful. There's much to learn from you about these things, uh, Ray, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of business leaders would like to connect with you, know more about you, about your journey, about your program, Mental Fitness for Business Leaders in Recovery. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, as business leaders, I invite them to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can search my name. I think I provided you with my LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
So connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me that you heard me on the KAJ Masterclass. And what I'd like to do is I'll send you what we call the Saboteur Assessment. It's a 3-minute test that you take very rapidly. And it'll tell you what your saboteur profile is. It's surprisingly accurate. And I say that because if you retake the test over time, your profile will generally stay the same. Your response to how your mind reacts negatively will change, but your reactions generally won't. So if I send that, so if you connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll send you a link to that, and then send me your results, and we'll set up a free coaching session so that you can get an idea of what it's like to work with me. Also, I'm very open, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, just to having a conversation. If you just want to hear more, just talk about what your things are. We're just it'll be two friends in recovery talking.
Wonderful. Two friends in recovery talking. Wonderful.
I'd
With
also
this,
like to say I invite anyone to connect with me at any level, whether you're in recovery or not, or whether you're a business leader or not. If you're interested in this kind of work, I'd be happy to talk to you.
wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.